Good morning, this is Bastiaan, and today we're going to look at a new attack for white, which is called the Paleface. And Paleface starts out with d4, knight to c6, and then pawn to f3. And pawn to f3 has a few reasons behind it. Now, black can no longer play knight to e4 or knight to g4. Also, it supports both an e4 and g4 pawn break. A downside is, of course, that white has an open diagonal, but it's tough for black to take advantage of it, because therefore he needs to, at some point, play queen to h4, which is not possible as long as this knight is blocking the diagonal. So typical continuations would be d5, after which white can choose to either play e4 or g4, the geduld attack, as a book move. And after e4, if pawn takes, if white chooses so, he can transpose to other systems. For instance, knight to c3, pawn recaptures, and then queen or knight recaptures. And we can see the black Mortimer gambit appearing on the board. So those are some ideas behind the Paleface attack. In order to show you even more, I'm going to play live game against the Chessmaster Grandmaster edition and annotate the game as we go along. So I haven't set up the board, so hopefully we will see the Paleface appear quickly. We've seen the Indian defense, so that's excellent. Pawn to f3. d5, and now I like to play knight to c3 instead of the book moves. And the reason why is, although the c pawn has become blocked, we can see that there's a lot of support on e4. e4 can no longer be prevented. So it's a bit in the spirit of the Chigorin or Rxd4 Rg4 attack. Pawn takes, queen recaptures. And normally this is a bad move, because after knight to c6 it looks like black has free development. And after bishop to b5, I can trade off knights and end up with a strong queen in the center. We'll see if pawn or bishop recaptures. Bishop recaptures. Otherwise, of course, this bishop has become locked in and can only move on this diagonal, where it is faced with the Paleface pawn and the strong pawn on e4. So if you take a look at the board, now this bishop can only develop to b5 and a4, where it is useless because a knight is covering that square. Also, this knight is useless because the Paleface pawn prevents it from developing to e4 and g4. Note that knight to h5 is impossible because of g4, which will trap the knight. Also, we can see that this pawn cannot move, because if e5 is played, queen can recapture. So our centralized queen is actually very strong. Queen to e5 takes pawn with a check. Now we continue with hidden attack in a Paleface. That's e5. The knight will be forced back, because h5, as said before, is not available. Knight goes to d7, and e6, threatening to move the knight even further, or to exchange the pawn. And if pawn takes pawn, which is best, we can see a weakness on the diagonal appearing against black's king. So let's see what black does, but he has little choice. After pawn takes pawn, I will play f4, because the only way for black to chase away my queen is with e5. We're seeing rook to g8. If e5 is played, pawn takes pawn, knight recap, pawn advances, pawn recaptures, and I have regained my gambited pawn. But black tries a different strategy and plays rook to g8, looking to play f5 to get rid of the pawn. So we're seeing g6. Now black is trying to play a fianchetto to get rid of the queen. Notice that g7 is now covered by the rook, and the fianchetto is possible. So once again, black is trying to chase away my strong queen in the center. So let's see what we can do. Not much. I'm going to continue development. Bishop to e3. Leaving open options to castle kingside or queenside. Queen to d3, still protecting the knight. e5. So now we're seeing a threat of e4, which will fork the queen and the knight. This of course cannot be allowed. So I'm going to trade off the pieces in the center. Knight recaptures, pawn recaptures. So black chooses to keep his bishop as the final minor piece. I'm going to castle queenside. e6. I want to open up the e-file and, if possible, trade off the bishop, because I don't have the bishop pair anymore. Bishop to d4 forces this bishop away from the e-file. So we're seeing bishop to d6. Now there's only one pawn protecting the king from a check. So we're going to play rook h to e1. Notice that this pawn is no longer protected, but rook takes pawn check is a powerful attack. Black must defend against it and plays queen to e7. Knight to b5, threatening this bishop. Also, if bishop recaptures, queen takes check, and black will have lost the bishop pair. Of course, if bishop takes pawn, which black plays now, I can play queen to h3, which threatens the bishop and also creates a second attacker on e6. Now the king has to move, and the king has become unsafe. So the king moves to d7. Bishop to c5, overloading the defender. If queen recaptures, queen takes pawn check, which will probably lead to forced mate. In between check, black saves his bishop. Queen to f7. Knight to d4, adding even more pressure on the e-pawn. Rook 8 to e8. Rook to f1, adding pressure on the bishop. g5, g3. Looks like black is going to lose a minor piece. b6, going to retreat. Nice diagonal for the bishop. It's time to take the minor piece out now. Unless black plays something else. a5, pawn takes bishop. Pawn takes, queen to c3, threatening queen takes bishop with a check. This reactivates the queen. Bishop to a4. So the bishop is still controlling c6 square. Going to play b3. Now the bishop is lost. I don't mind training down pieces because I have an advantage. So black counterattacks, but I'm going to take out the bishop anyways. Rook takes pawn, even gains a free pawn. Rook to g4. Queen to c4. Creating more pressure on the pawn on d5. Of course, pawn cannot capture the queen because of the check. We're seeing rook to e4, adding a second defender after the queen on the pawn on d5. So I'm going to add a third. Black plays rook to h5. So now I have two attackers on this pawn. There are three defenders on this pawn. But there is a stronger attack now. I can play queen to a6. Going to the 7th rank with my queen. Pawn advances. Rook to c4. Queen to c8 check. Rook to c6 check. Rook to c7. And I can take out the queen. And it's all over for black. So I'll just finish the game. Check. Take pawn check. Rook to f1. Threatening grabs the pawn on f3 with check. 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 Grab the pawn. This makes room for the a pawn to promote. Check. Another free pawn. This will get rid of black's final piece. And that's the end of the game. So that's a basic example of the Paleface attack. I hope you enjoyed watching this game, and have a great evening. Or have a good morning, I mean.